The Fix is in. The Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement. GVArtwork.com.
Sports Fix listeners, don't wait all day or all week to get in on the fun. The party doesn't stop when we go off the air all week long. The Sports Fix social media sites are your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Jump over to Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, and become a fan today because we love fans and they create some of the best sports talk in town, Daddy. You'll enjoy talking to your fellow Cleveland sports fans on the Sports Fix fan page. And if Twitter's your thing, well, you know how we do it. Tweet with us at the SportsFixCLE. It's that simple. Twitter.com/TheSportsFixCLE, baby. Chat live with the crew during all your favorite Cleveland sports events, tickets and contests and trivia and so much more. Get with us today, the Sports Fix on social media, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at the SportsFixCLE. Join the Sports Fix on Facebook and Twitter today.
Hey Cleveland, this is Anderson Varejão of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You are listening to the Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
I'm here. Let's rock and roll, baby. Just getting out those last couple of tweets and Facebook posts before we launch it on the air, baby. Bam! Here we go. Thursday edition of the Sports Fix is on the air and off and running here. Welcome in, you guys. J-Rocc, Jerry Myers with you again, cracking that mic, and glad to be here. Thank you for being here with us, guys, as we roll on down into the week coming already. Tomorrow, we're, hitting that weekend, man. I guess it came a lot faster for me because I wasn't here for the first 2 days of the week. But, hey, what's done is done. It's still coming pretty quickly here. And, hey, it's the weekend for all of us. Just, I happen to have a longer one last weekend. And I'll tell you what, man, when it rains, it pours. Just a quick aside note here. Next Tuesday, I just found this out yesterday. Like 2 weeks ago, my youngest son came up to me and said, "Dad, you got to do career day. Got to do career day." I said, "All right, man." He's like, "Dad, you got two cool things that you do, man. Your radio and wrestling." And I said, "All right, man." I said, I'll give a speech to your class and do the whole thing and all of that stuff." And so sure enough, I filled out the form and sent it back. And yesterday I get my thing back from the teacher, and sure enough, Sports Fix time. They've got me penciled right in, and it's not flexible or negotiable. So I have the option of either disappointing all of you or disappointing the one of him. And I don't have to look at all of you feeling terrible that Dad didn't go to career day. So there will be no live Sports Fix on Tuesday coming up. I believe it's the 27th. I don't know, but whatever. This coming Tuesday. And I said, man, I haven't taken 3 unscheduled days off in a 1 week period, and I can't tell you how long, but that will actually make 3. But that's next Tuesday. But just giving you guys a heads up now, I'm going to go do the career day thing, which is cool, always all about the kids. But like I said, man, I don't have to look at each and every one of you guys brokenhearted. And plus, man, who knows? 20 years from now, man, I could prevent bad things from happening. I mean, a lot of times people do terrible things, and when you go, why? They go, because Dad didn't go to career day. So I'm looking out for you guys. I'm looking out for your children's children. 20, 30 years from now, I'm preventing future maniacs of America from being loose on the street. So consider it my civic and fatherly duty to take next Tuesday off. But I just want to give you guys a heads up on that as we get rolling. Welcome into the sport. I don't even know why I did that first, but I did. Welcome in, Sports Fix. Whether you're listening live, of course, across the Sports Fix radio network, maybe you're enjoying the show live on TuneIn and TuneIn's radio app worldwide. Perhaps you're listening live on Spreaker and Mixler. See, Bruce, there we go. I knew if I explained it from the aspect of, hey, man, come on, what's a brother supposed to do, man? Tell the kid, but I got to do the sports fix on a Tuesday. I'm pretty sure that whatever news we've got to talk about will still be there on Wednesday. But thanks for the heads up there, Bruce. Whether you're listening live, I could just interrupt myself and pick it back up on Spreaker and Mixler, or perhaps you're enjoying us live on our home base, thesportsfix.net, live here each and every day. Make sure you bookmark that, by the way. It's not only has the live broadcast each and every day, but it's got all the podcasts, ways to listen to the show, all the social media, not just there, click on it and go to it, but you can actually interact with it right there on the page. So bookmark it, thesportsfix.net. Welcome in as well, all of you listening on digital delay 24/7 on iHeartRadio, on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio, and SoundCloud, and all of the podcast platforms, Car Play, Spreaker. See, I leave one, I missed the deal, and then I gotta stutter around and figure out the ones I forgot. There's about 36 of them, so if you listen to the show on any of those other ways to listen, thank you so much for being a part of it. You guys are the voice of the show. I've got time today, and I want to hear from you. Phones are open. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Put the needle down. Stop deflating some footballs. Pick up the phone and give us a call. 216-539-7535. Hit us up. Facebook, and if only it gets cold in Cleveland. Why didn't the Browns think all these years of deflating some footballs and making it easier on some of them rotten quarterbacks that we've had all these years? See? The ghost of Bill haunts us again, even in 2015. All right, 216-539-7535. Hit us up on our social media, Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixCLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Got a lot to get into today. We're going to talk about the deflated footballs for a minute. Not forever, because boy, is this ridiculous. Boy, the NFL pulling the okie doke on all of you guys. I'm telling you now, man. Is it coincidental that this whole thing, this ridiculous, I mean, and that's the word that I'm using here. I know some people are going to go, oh, integrity of the game and cheating, and we'll get into all that in a minute, but this is ridiculous. And does anybody else besides me not happen to notice that, oh, wow, what do you know? This crazy thing that hasn't really been, a big thing at any time ever before, here happens to hit on that doggone slow week where the NFL doesn't have as much stuff to talk about before they start ramping up for the Super Bowl. Boy, this is really going to put a whole lot of focus on the Super Bowl. There's going to be a whole lot of people next week who didn't care about football who are really interested now in seeing if the cheating New England Patriots can beat the Seattle Seahawks. Guess what? Don't be surprised. I mean, it happens every year anyway, but don't be surprised when there's a new record audience for the Super Bowl, when there's new record social media talk about the NFL during the weeks before the Super Bowl. I'm just saying, this just happens to be a beautiful thing. If you're the NFL, they can say whatever. This is a beautiful thing. Everybody's talking about this insignificant thing that's been blown, and you can say, how do you say insignificant? It's cheating. I'm sorry, brother, if the New England Patriots had not thrown a single pass in that game, they still would have ran over the Indianapolis Colts. Nobody could stop LeGarrette Blount. One of you guys on Twitter jokingly this morning said, well, why do you think they could run the ball? Because it was lighter. They got a little bit of extra step, and that may have been it. Hey, maybe that 2 pound... No, we were joking about it, but anyways, listen. There's two camps to this. Well, you know what? Before we break into the whole actual spiel, run down on the show real quick. We're talking, of course, Browns, Belichick, Patriots here. A little bit about Mike Pettine in the opening segment. I'm going to take some phone calls. Cavaliers getting it wrong. Can you say Timofey? That's all I'm saying, baby. Timofey, man. We'll talk about the Cavaliers here as they continue to roll. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com joins us here in a little bit. He wants to talk a little Cavs, talk some Tribe Fest coming. The division changing some more. Max Scherzer out. We'll talk about all of that here. But let's jump back into it right off the top. Again, I see some calls in the queue. 216-539-7535. Basically, there's two camps. Listen, I'm joking to start the show, my little monologue here. Obviously, cheating, no good. You don't want to see that. I get all of that. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, who cares? The Patriots cheated. I'm not saying that. Whatever the NFL finds out about this, that's fine. Bill Belichick, I sat there and I watched him, and I'm sorry, but I don't like the fact that the two best teams in the NFL are getting ready to take stage here and play. And Bill Belichick, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in NFL history. Patriots, one of the best teams in NFL history. Seahawks working to try to put themselves in that conversation. Did you guys realize, by the way, off the topic, Seahawks defense, the way it ranked out these past 2 years, the last defense to be as good as this, 85-86 Bears. I mean, and people hold that 85 Bears squad up as like the mantle there, the peak of great defense. I mean, there's some other ones too, Steel Curtain, Purple People Eaters, different things like that. But point being is that, man, that's a level there. So, I mean, you got a team that's trying to become the next dynasty. But you got two great teams. You got the current dynasty. You got this future Hall of Fame coach and all of that stuff, man. And here, Bill Belichick had to spend an hour of his time this morning dealing with this and it's away from the focus of his team. I know some of you don't care to hear that. There's a lot of people. I said it this morning, and I understand that the very nature of our society is to build them up, to tear them down, and all of that stuff. But man, when did it become so anti-American to be highly successful at what you do, man? I mean, in our society, it just seems that the world has changed from and I get it, because there's been so many scams and so many people that have turned out to be frauds that now we look at everything with a cross eye. And of course, the Patriots, it's not like they don't have a checkered history of their own, but just in general, outside of just this case, anytime there's an accomplishment, I mean, the first thought is, well, if I couldn't do it, then he must have cheated, or he must have. It had nothing to do with the fact that he was better at his job than me, worked harder at his job than me, any of those things. There had to be some other reason. I mean, in general, but that's part of the whole everybody gets a trophy for participating part of our society anyway. But there's a big aspect to that. Everything that Bill Belichick does, he's got a group of people that cannot stand Bill Belichick, the success of the Patriots, and all. And all of that does not mean that somebody didn't underinflate these footballs. Bruce had me rolling there in the chat room. Bill Belichick, heads will roll whoever didn't deflate that 12th football that was actually regular. But here's my thing on the Belichick part of it. Now, later today, Tom Brady will talk, and Belichick, hey, he passed the buck to Brady, which makes sense to me. Guess what? Tom Brady touches the football all game long. There's two camps of this when it comes to Bill Belichick. And I cannot believe we're spending this much time talking about this. There's two camps when it comes to Belichick. There's the camp that just plain and simple believes that he did it. And hey, maybe he did. I don't think so, man. I truly don't think so. I'm not saying somebody didn't, but I honestly don't think that somebody was Bill Belichick, man. There's a lot of people that will do a lot of things thinking that they're helping out or whatnot. Whatever. Point being is, I don't think Bill Belichick, but you're in that camp, and if that's the case, fine. That's cool. That's what you believe. The other camp bothers me a little bit, though, because the other camp says, well, Belichick didn't do it, but he's responsible for it nonetheless. And I find that a little bit ridiculous, because at what point a football coach is doing so many. I don't know any football coach who has any interaction with the footballs once that thing gets rolling. And my point being is that I saw some people, some of the talking heads nationally even say, Bill Belichick, the buck stops with him. Remember, ignorance is not an excuse, according to Roger Goodell. They held Sean Payton to a higher standing. They've got to hold Bill Belichick to a higher standing too. My point is this: when the hell do you ever see a football coach before a game, let alone a big game, out there checking out I guess now there's a new part of the NFL checklist, because after this, apparently every coach will have to add, when they've got their list of things that they do before the game, make sure everybody's healthy, make sure the plays are ready, make sure all the communication systems are working. That 1,000 things that they have to check off, they can now add number 1,001, because apparently they now also have to go squeeze every football and make sure that they're Charmin squeezably soft and that they're just the right weight for the NFL. Can somebody tell me, I'm just asking, if you're in that camp that says Belichick needs to be responsible, can somebody tell me why millions and millions of people around the world watch? There were thousands and thousands of people in the stadium that day. Hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of actual NFL employees there. Tons of people whose actual job it is to monitor the rule. There's a guy who stands on the sideline during football games and flags people day in and day out for their socks being too high, for their shirt being untucked, for them wearing the wrong kind of eye black or the wrong bandana under their helmet. So the NFL can micromanage their game so much that they can do all of that during the game. Nobody except DeQuell Jackson could figure out that there were 11 faulty footballs on that field. Nobody from the NFL, whose job it is to monitor that, figured that out until later in the game. But Bill Belichick was... Now, assuming that you don't believe that he personally deflated those footballs, Bill Belichick was supposed to know that. All the things he's doing as the head coach, he's supposed to know that too. I'm just saying, you've now added a new stupid responsibility for coaches to have to worry about when they go on the field. They're going to have to make sure that they personally check the footballs, because somebody's going to be held responsible. John McMullen made a great point when he was on yesterday. Because of Ray Rice, because of all this stuff that happened this year, now the NFL is going to feel the need to be heavy-handed. And I'm okay with that, because somebody does have to be responsible. Somebody in the organization, whether it was a water boy, a towel boy, a ball boy, if it was Bill Belichick, somebody did it. Now, obviously, if you can prove it's somebody high-ranking, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. But that's not what we're dealing with here. Nobody is accusing Bill Belichick of proving that he can do anything. He said what he said. It is what it is. You can only deal with the facts that are there. You want to fine the franchise? Fine them. I agree with that. Somebody did something wrong. You want to hit them with the draft pick? Hit them with it. But these people that come at me and say you must suspend Bill Belichick for the Super Bowl, that drives me nuts. How? You've already got one. First off, does that make things better for the Colts? Does that give the Colts? Are they going to replay the game? Are we going to replay the game with new footballs? Are we going to give the Colts a second chance at this thing? Because the Colts, there's no remedy to them. Then again, they didn't need one because they got absolutely demolished, which really, to me, takes the edge off of this, because they could have been playing with spring-loaded footballs, and the Colts weren't doing any better than what they did the other day. They played the Patriots twice this season and were demolished both times, and guess what? It all happened on the ground. They were ran over on the ground. They couldn't stop Jonas Gray. They couldn't stop LeGarrette Blount the other day. So, again, maybe it was because he was running with a football that was 2 pounds lighter. But my point being is that, hold the franchise responsible. That's fine. But knock off that garbage noise about suspending Bill Belichick and all of this, because, again, man, unless you've got some evidence, unless you've got something, you cannot. You cannot do the whole, the buck stops. Not for the Super Bowl. You want to suspend him for some games next year, I guess. I don't know. Let you and him and his lawyers, arbitrators figure that out. But let's compromise the biggest game of the season. Let's go let an assistant coach go coach the Patriots out there in the Super Bowl, because we need to appease public opinion that doesn't like Bill Belichick, doesn't like the New England Patriots. Like Belichick. I'll tell you what, Belichick's point today, everybody mocked him on Twitter for throwing the quarterback under the bus, throwing Tom Brady under the bus. No. Who touches the football, the coach or the quarterback? I can't tell you any football game that I remember watching where I've ever seen a coach touch a football, ever. Even jokingly, what? No. Quarterback touches it all the time. Now, if you want to say Tom Brady, even if he didn't have anybody do it, first time he touched that football, he knew. Maybe he said, "Oh, that one seemed a little bit better to grip." Second time, he said, "Okay, this isn't a coincidence. These footballs." So Now, Tom Brady, if he knew from the first snap and he didn't say anything, okay, he may not have caused the cheating, but he knew about it along the way. Now, if he tells Belichick during the game, now Belichick has knowledge of it going on. There's definitely places where guys can be skirting the truth. But, I mean, obviously, to me, where all the questions went to Belichick, to me, they really do go to Tom Brady, because at what point did you notice? At what point did you say something? Those are legitimate questions there. That's the person who would have known more than anybody else, unless you're in the camp that Bill Belichick did it. And I'm cool. If that's your place, that's cool, because there's different camps in this argument. But if you're in the Belichick didn't do it, but he's responsible argument, I highly, highly, highly disagree with that. We've just got to agree to disagree on that one. I'm going to go to the phones here real quickly, though, while we're talking football. Mike Pettine yesterday talked about the signing of John DeFilippo here as the offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. Of course, the press release, what you would expect. You think they're going to put out a press release and say, hey, well, we had a limited pool of candidates, and this was the guy that we felt was the best of what we could get to come here and coach. That being said, I don't want to totally take away from it, because all the fluff talk yesterday, Belichick, all the fluff talk yesterday from Pettine about how great of a coach John DeFilippo is, and he's got a track record here and there, but there were a couple lines that I liked. Now, again, everybody can win the press conference, everybody can win the press release, but I did like he said when they sat down to interview, he looked at him, and this is Pettine, he looked at DeFilippo and said, listen, we're not looking for a system. We're looking for a guy who will fit the pieces we've got as it is. I mean, to me, and I could really see the truth. In the fluff, I could see the truth in that statement of exactly what Mike Pettine meant. Obviously, he was in a touchy situation, didn't want to replace his offensive coordinator. So to him, the key was, we are not blowing up a system. We're going to bring somebody in that says, I'm not bringing in a playbook. And that's what Mike Pettine said. I'm going to take what we've got and try to make it. You have to for now. If you don't, then you're screwing it up, and they're all going to be fired. So at least there, even if you're very skeptical, and I know a lot of you are because you've hit me up, a lot of you skeptical. Nobody's impressed by this hiring at all. I mean, just a collective yawn. But if you can just, I don't want to say seamlessly transition, but if you can make it, and here was the key, is I liked where they said instead of making everybody else learn new terms, one person's going to learn new terms. DeFilippo said, if you call it hammer and I call it smash, I'm going to start calling it hammer, because it's easier for me to change the names of the plays in my head than to ask the entire offense to change the plays. That, for once, is the opposite of square peg and round hole. So maybe, just maybe, I'm not saying it'll be beautiful offense, but maybe it won't be as dramatic as change as it could have been. If that's true, if what he said is true, hey, that's making the best of what you've got. And right now, that's the kind of offensive coordinator that the Browns need. Oh, trust me, Charles, I'm all about the legacy of great coordinators from such strong winning franchises lately as the Raiders and the Bills and the Bucks and all of that. Trust me. We talked about that yesterday. But my point is if he does believe that, if John DeFilippo does say, hey, I'm going to make it easiest on the players and hardest on me to make this change, that's the one way that it may not just completely suck for everybody. So we'll see. Hey, man, there's a lot of questions left to be answered about that. We'll let that go on. I'm not going to drag on too much about this. I'll let you do that. Let's go to the phones. Caller, you're up. First on the Sports Fix.
J-Rocc Daddy.
Hey, LGZ, what's happening, baby?
I'll tell you one thing, J-Rocc Daddy. I've been watching football on TV from 1963 till the present, and I got to tell you, never once in my life have I heard about a deflated football during a football game and people being accused of cheating and everything else. And I tell you, just it goes to show you how stupid the general public really is to buy into a story that deflated footballs were a master plan. I mean, come on, man. all you got to do is fill up these footballs inside the building, which I can guarantee you they probably do fill up inside of a room somewhere in the building. And you take them outside in the 50-degree weather. Let's say it was 70 degrees in the room. You're going to lose 1 or 2 pounds of pressure.
And you know what,
in them footballs.
LG?
I mean,
great point. Let me jump in there because you just made the point that I forgot to make during my speech. That was something, of course, people go, well, Belichick's just a liar. Who cares? What he said was exactly right. What he said was Tom Brady likes the footballs at its minimum allowable. Like whenever they do their footballs for the game, the limit is whatever, 12.4 pounds or whatever. That's where they go. They don't go any higher. You could go higher than that. Some teams do. So when they lost football, it took it down even more. And obviously, I'm just saying, you can choose to believe that or not. But what you just said is the case. If you already only blow them up to the minimum allowable level, then of course, once the cold kicks in, they're all going to go under the poundage that they need to be. But my point is you can say you inspected those footballs 2 hours before the game and then they let them down. Somebody's job? Felix Wright gets paid to sit on the Browns sideline during the game and say, hey, son, tuck your shirt in. Hey, son, pull your socks up. Hey, son, you got the wrong color eye black. But there's nobody out there looking at the footballs? Come on, dude. Come on.
Well, first of all, J-Rocc, Martin Smaltz, a professor of physics at Boston University. Physics. It's simple physics. How many people drive these new cars, including myself,
flat
with
tires.
The tire pressure on the dashboard? And every time the weather drops last winter, I can't tell you how many days when we had minus 11 degrees, how many days it showed every one of my car tires was low on pressure.
Oh, I know, LG. I know.
The barometric pressure changes. It changes the pressure inside the human body as well as the air pressure in anything.
But you know what, Larry?
It
doesn't matter. There was a blowout. That's the best part about this, is it was non-competitive from the kickoff. You know?
That's the next part of the conversation I wanted to get to. 45-7. I mean, come on. I could understand if this was one missed field goal and that determining the game, but obviously you got to give Andrew Luck a lot of credit. He went into Mile High Stadium. He beat Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning, which you can understand what that meant to the Indianapolis Colts after losing Peyton Manning.
Let me ask you something real quick.
Hershey let Manning walk. Obviously, Manning had more football left in him than anybody in the Colts organization thought at that time.
Larry, I got to jump in. I got to jump in real quick. Larry, I got to jump in because Bruce just hit it in the chat room there. This was part of the point that I was making, but every single, like I said, you never see coaches even hand a football to somebody. They never touch the ball. Every single play, the referee brings that ball back to the line of scrimmage, puts it down. You're trying to tell me that for 40, 50, however many plays were ran in the first half of that game, that every time supposedly DeQuell Jackson was the first person who said, hey, this football feels funny to me, coach. Supposedly, a player on a team that was getting its brains beaten in happened to notice that the football was deflated about halfway through while he was searching for a reason in his own head why his team was getting their brains beaten in on the field. He found a deflated football, yet the officials who placed the ball at the spot after every single play didn't scratch their heads one time until the Colts complained. I'm just curious how that happened.
Well, it just goes to show you, J-Rocc, Daddy. I mean, it's ironic that it was DeQuell Jackson because the Cleveland Browns let him go, walked away as a free agent. The Browns didn't re-sign him. Had they known this guy had the magic hands like he has, that not only can intercept the football, but can tell you what the air pressure inside that object is.
Listen.
J-Rocc, it was pouring down rain in New England last Sunday for that game.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, the football, just from being wet, is going to feel a whole lot heavier than it actually is. And you know how hard it is to handle a wet football. I don't care if you put 12 pounds of pressure in there, 11 pounds of pressure. Wetness is going to make that ball slippery, and that's the end of the argument. I mean, right there. The ball weighs probably a couple pounds more when it's wet than it does when it's dry. So, You know, the bottom line is this. Andrew Luck did a great job this season. It's a shame his legacy is going to be remembered because there was cheating allegations made by his team against the New England Patriots. We saw Andrew Luck in his rookie season reach the playoffs. He lasted one game. Now we see him in the playoffs again. He beats the Denver Broncos. I have a feeling the next time Andrew Luck is in the playoffs, he's going to do a lot better. This
it
is
doesn't
the guy
matter
that's destined to play in a Super Bowl.
Doesn't matter if you deflate those footballs or not. When he's ready to win a Super Bowl, he'll win a Super Bowl whether that football weighs 11 pounds or 15 pounds. You can mark my word on that one, man.
So let's move away from that and let's get to the Browns' new offensive, however you say that. This is one of Mike Pettine's buddies. They work together in the New York Jets organization. Obviously,
I can already tell you don't like it. I can already hear it in LG's voice. You don't like it.
No, it's not that I don't like it, J-Rocc. It's that you just get used to it. It's the NFL been that way. When we saw the Browns hire Pat Shurmur, he was because Mike Holmgren worked with Uncle Fritz, if you recall. So it's not anymore who you're going to hire, who could be the best coach. It's who's your best friend or who's a friend of the family or you might have an allegiance to somebody else. And despite the fact that Cleveland is not going to get any reputable coach to come here, after this is our sixth offensive coordinator hire in 6 years. I mean, come on, J-Rocc.
Let me jump in
who
real
in their
quick.
right mind wants to come here, man?
I agree. Now, what you just said, I think there's a reason for that. And I can just think about human nature, what just happened with the Browns, especially Mike Pettine. I'm looking at it specifically from him as a coaching staff, not the Browns as an organization. And you just had a guy who you made a 3-year investment in walk from you on 1 year, kind of leave you high and dry, and your organization didn't even stop him from walking out the door. So I said it yesterday. I said, obviously, you've got to realize that there's a piece of this that is, hey, I can trust that this guy is not going to leave me high and dry after 10 months and go that is part of it. You do, after being betrayed, you want to feel safe in the next relation. I'm not saying it's the best way to hire. What I'm saying is when your group of candidates wasn't fantastic to begin with, then you go with a guy that you're familiar with. And I think that's the biggest part of it.
Well, you know what, you could say you could have a group of candidates that you're familiar with, but how many of those candidates would actually make the sacrifice to come here, bring your family here, relocate to Cleveland, and take the risk of getting fired after one season? I mean, some of these coaches in the last couple of years haven't even lasted one full calendar year, J-Rocc, Daddy. I mean, think about that.
I understand that. I love the one statement
yesterday. I can imagine
Jimmy
Haslam's the kind of guy that if you walk in to have a discussion with him, and you probably worked for bosses like this in your life, his first remark to you would be, if you don't like it, they're on the way out. I could just imagine Jimmy Haslam's that kind of a guy who thinks it's his way or the highway. Look at what happened with Pilot Flying J. He hung out to dry 9 of his top-level executives during the rebate fuel scam, man. These people are charged criminals now, J-Rocc, Daddy. As long as Mr. Jimmy Haslam didn't end up in prison or take the rap for something that I still don't buy to this day, this guy couldn't have known anything about the rebate scam thing. Come on, man. How do you end up with all those millions extra in your checkbook and not realize where that money's coming from?
I don't know. How do you end up with 11 deflated footballs, man? I don't know, LG. The mysteries of the sports.
J-Rocc. Physics, baby. It could be physics.
I'm messing with you, man. I'm messing with you, man. Look, I get it, man. But, I mean, really, at this point, we could spend 6 months going bad hire, or
I'm not saying it's a bad hire. I'm just saying it's another hire. It's another hire of a guy that has a friend in the organization. Yep. And you know what, J-Rocc? As soon as John DeFilippo's name came into the mix, I figured this was going to be the guy the Cleveland Browns hired because Mike Pettine and him are good. They go back to the Jets. They work together. And you know what? The sad reality is going to be this guy's going to figure out really quick Johnny Manziel is not Derek Carr, man. I've seen some posts.
I know you did a story about that this morning. Let's see who the quarterbacks are going to be for this guy. My thing is I'm just going to say this, and I'm not Homer honking for the Indians are coming next, for the Browns here or anything like that. But nobody was feeling good about Mike Pettine when he was hired. Now the Browns got lucky. I'm gonna say they threw the dart at the dartboard and they hit a decent spot. I like Mike Pettine. I think we got a good head coach so far in Mike Pettine. But my point is nobody was blown away. Nobody was really very excited about that. So I'm hoping that this could be instead of, I don't care about the big ticket. I don't care about the press. We got enough of that crap when we draft a guy like Manziel. I just want this to be the quiet, no-name guy that comes in the door and makes things not suck so much on offense. That's all. Let's see what happens.
Let's just talk about Mike Pettine for a minute, J-Rocc Daddy. If you looked at the four guys'
quick,
face,
I gotta go. Quickly.
If you look at the four guys' face during the last 4 games during the Browns' season, obviously this was a face that looks to me like he was wearing handcuffs out there, man, because it's totally evident that the Cleveland Browns front office and some player personnel people had more to do with what was taking place with the yanking of Hoyer and the insertion of Johnny Manziel than a coach needs to deal with, especially in his rookie season as a head coach in the NFL. So, Mike Pettine is kind of trapped between a rock and a hard place right
Absolutely,
now. He knows deep in his heart that Johnny Manziel may not be the guy. His last remark of the season, after it was all said and done, was the quarterback situation in Cleveland is extremely muddy.
But I do have to come back to this, and this is not, trust me, I'm not, I don't think Manziel's going to work out. But at the end of the day, you can beg, prod, and plead the organization for the players you want. If Manziel is the guy for 2015, if that's what they decide after the draft and all that, then somehow, beyond hope, Mike Pettine and John DeFilippo, that is your job. Your job is no longer to complain about it, to try to make the guy look good, bad, ugly. You do the best you can to make him as good as he can be. But we don't even know. That's what I mean, Larry. We can't even talk about anything right now. We don't know. So let's see what happens, man. Let's see what happens.
One thing we do know is the high praise that Mike Pettine sang for Connor Shaw. Now, I'm not saying Connor Shaw is an NFL franchise quarterback.
No, come on, man. It's January 21st. I don't even know who the Browns quarterback's going to be. We can't talk about it right now. We can't. You trying to drive me crazy? We're talking about deflated footballs and Browns quarterbacks, LG. I love you, my friend.
Well, you brought up John DeFilippo. I mean, the guy's got his work cut out for him.
Well, you know what, though? He is known as a quarterback guy.
Quarterback-less NFL football franchise.
Well, guess what? That's exactly what the Browns need. Because the one thing that he specializes in is working with quarterbacks that need some coaching. So we definitely have at least one of those on the roster, depending on what happens. And really, this could be a moot conversation. They could draft somebody new, they could trade for somebody, they could sign somebody, or they could bring the kid back. I don't know. We'll have to find out. Manziel. I'm saying. Manziel. I'm saying. There's a lot of ways this could go. No reason to speculate about it now, man. I mean, we don't have the slightest clue who the Browns quarterback. Technically, the Browns quarterback is still Brian Hoyer for another couple of weeks until the free agency hits. So, we'll have to see. But that's the one thing I like.
Let me just tell you one funny thing, J-Rocc Daddy. Most of the time,
I gotta go.
When an NFL team hires a new offensive coordinator, you generally see some congratulatory tweets coming from the players. I wonder if Johnny Manziel even realizes the Cleveland Browns are, because his last tweet about 20 hours ago said, "I love Chipotle tweets." Never once has he come forward and said anything like,
LG, I don't care what Johnny Manziel was tweeting today. If he was tweeting something stupid, we could talk about it. I don't care what that kid's doing. He don't care about us, and we don't care about him, man. He can go in Aspen, go do what he wants. 1 or 2 years from now, nobody will care what he's doing because he's not going to be in the NFL. LG, I got to go, my friend. I love it, man. Thank you for the call.
All right, J-Rocc Daddy, I'll talk to you later, man.
You got it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, let's talk some Cavaliers, baby. Let's shift to something better, man. I did not intend to go that long on that, man. But, hey, whatever, man. Inflate your footballs and come on back with us because we're going to bounce them on the hardwood, baby. I wonder if maybe that's how you slow down the Cavs the way maybe now teams will start deflating the basketball. Maybe that DeflateGate will hit just in the, I can see it now. The Cavs will lose in the playoffs and then somebody will say, hey, maybe they deflated the basketball. And, hey, we'll have a whole thing. I'm just saying, man, it's ridiculousness. We're talking about the stuff we talk about on the days we don't have anything to talk about. NFL, I see what you did. I see what you did. You gave everybody stuff to talk about on the days they don't have any football to talk about. Well played, NFL. Well played. Let's take a break and talk about the Cavs. Talking about well played. They are playing well. Is this effort going to maintain? Because as I texted Mike Brandenberry this morning, this effort, the rest of this season will be interesting to watch. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to do 2 segments here with my man Mike Brandenberry. I know he does the whole did the Tribe win last night deal, but we're going to talk about the Cavaliers because they did win last night, and we'll talk some Indians baseball as well when we come back here live on the Sports Fix. Don't go anywhere. Talking Cavs next on The Fix.
Public service announcement from the Sports Fix. We here at the Sports Fix and our affiliates would like to apologize for any disturbing verbal actions, but remember, it's better having them trapped in a box than loose on the streets. Public service announcement from the Sports Fix. The Sports Fix, the sports show that cares.
Sports Fix listeners, you've heard me talking about it. Millionaires being made all season long at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. I've been playing there too. It's now J-Rocc's favorite one-week fantasy football site. What's one-week fantasy football? That means no season-long commitments. Play whenever you want. Have a player who's hurt? That's no problem at all because you change everything week to week. Injuries don't derail your chance at victory. It's a new season every week. You're never stuck with the same players. You can pick your team in just minutes and be on your way to winning huge cash. This season, one listener turned $10 into $5,000. Another turned $2 into $10,000. And a new millionaire has been crowned nearly every week this season at DraftKings.com. You could be next. Imagine winning $1 million in one day. $1 million just for playing fantasy football at DraftKings.com. Head to DraftKings.com now and use promo code Spreaker to play for free in the $10 million Fantasy Football World Championships. DraftKings.com. Bigger events, bigger winnings, bigger millionaires. Enter Spreaker now at DraftKings.com.
Hey, Sports Fix fans, I'm Fred McLeod, TV voice of the Cavaliers. When I'm not busy taking elbows from my buddy Austin Carr, I'm tuning in to see what the guys are saying. Come on, Cavs!
Football season is party season at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. Everyone wins at Harry Buffalo. Every Saturday is Coors Light College Football Saturday with $6 pitchers, 4 bottles for $10, and the Buckeyes in full HD. Football season is most definitely party season, and your headquarters is Harry Buffalo North Olmsted all winter long. Harry Buffalo, join the herd. Here from Ohio. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com. Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history?
He won it! Milo hit a three-pointer on the sideline!
In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
They're playing basketball without that basketball. They're playing basketball without that basketball. They're playing basketball without that basketball. They're playing basketball.
Welcome back live. Yeah, they playing some basketball finally this season. The Cavaliers playing some basketball. Some beautiful basketball at that the last few days. Look, as we come back in on this segment here, I'm going to circle back all of this to what I said yesterday, what I've said practically every day this season. I don't care about the winning or the losing. That stuff takes care of itself. Like, I've never sat here and ticked off the wins and the losses and said, oh boy, this team's behind pace. I don't care about any of that fluff that some people get into. Effort. Every night, it wasn't there. Plain and simple. At the end of this season, if any of those guys can look you in the face and tell you that there was 100% effort, especially on the defensive end in the first half of the season, they are lying to you, and they'd be lying to themselves. They know what happened, and they know why it took a while for this thing to get where it is. Man, I'll tell you, I was telling Mike, and I'm going to have Mike Brandenberry here join us in a second, but I was telling Mike, and you guys know, last week a couple guys called, and I said the same thing and echoed it then, that the thing I was worried about was that everybody to a man talked about what a good coach the Cavs were getting in David Blatt, and how I was afraid that it was not going to matter because he was going to be gone before anybody had a chance to get to know this guy or even see what he was capable of doing. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said yesterday, man. Look, bad week of not showing up again, and all of a sudden these same issues are out there because now it's like I said earlier when Kyrie started playing some really good defense. Well, you've proven you can do it now, so you can't put the genie back in the bottle because now we know it's effort. It's not lack of ability. And same thing here. Now you go out there and you half-ass it throughout the game, then it's obvious that you're just half-assing it because you've shown now when things are together, what you guys are able to do. Good Lord, the defense. I mean, they were having some fun last night. Let's pick up there. Welcome back to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc here, about to go to the phones and be joined by my friend Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. Yes, I know, Tribe. We'll talk about them too. We'll probably do 2 segments here with Mike. I've got a lot of baseball stuff to get into, but let's talk some Cavaliers. And by the way, you guys keep the conversation rolling with us on social media, Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Cavaliers 106-92, wine and gold winners, as Fred McLeod would say it. And bigger than that, Cavaliers not only with their 4th straight win, but they did something last night that they have not done as a franchise ever. And the last time they even did it once was over 2 decades ago. All 5 starters over 15 points last night. 1993 was the last time the Cavaliers had a line like that. 1986 was the last time before that, and they've never done it in back-to-back nights like they've done it in their last 2 games against the Jazz and against the Bulls. So let's pick up there, and I'm going to go to the phones. My man Mike Brandenberry. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. It's amazing what a little bit of winning will do. Suddenly the sky is no longer falling, and now the sky is the limit.
I got to stop you with the, and now I get it. With the general public, what you said is exactly right. Change the word winning. It's amazing what the effort will do, because that was, tell me you weren't the same. Like, it wasn't just, I knew I knew if they were given full effort that this team was going to go back and forth in the first 2 months of the season or so. You just knew that. But the effort was not there on a night-to-night basis. There were all kinds of foibles and stuff, but part of it was the fit. Obviously, there were just things that were not working. There was some oil and water aspects to the roster, and I said after they made those trades, I said, look, this isn't changing the world. Obviously, you still have to go put it together. But the Cavaliers fit better as a team now than they did 24 hours ago after they made those trades, and you're beginning to see that now, the difference in how they're trying to do the same things, but now they're working because they have the right pieces in place to make those things play so much better. But the effort, top of the list, has been there. The defensive end, the effort, and that they play like I told you this morning, they play defense like that, and they can beat anybody, any night, anytime.
Oh, absolutely, I agree, and I agree with you. I mean, certainly the effort has picked up. It's probably one of those chicken or the egg type of things. Does the effort pick up and then create everyone to feed off of that, or just people, or when guys come back from injury, they feed off of that, and then thus the effort increases. But regardless of whichever way you look at it, you got to have effort. And I think there's certainly a lot to be said for playing not even just a man down, playing what felt like an army down for the first half of January and the tail end of December there. I think at one point I had figured out, since Verjao had gone down until LeBron came back, they had played 3 games with Kyrie, Love, and LeBron on the floor together. That's pretty tough, to get any kind of cohesion. And then you toss in, some other injuries to guys like Sean Marion, and toss in a trade when you're holding guys out and bringing new guys in. And I think all of it, just feeds together of, a bad road trip. And then on top of it, then send them on a road trip to boot. Things went as bad as they could go. And I was telling you as we were texting this morning, I think I'm like the eternal Cavs optimist of this year, because I work closely with a guy that is in my classroom 2 or 3 periods a day, and he asks me often, are you ready to push the panic button on the Cavs? And I laugh all the time. I tell you the honest truth. On opening night when they got beat by the Knicks, he goes, man, they didn't look very good. Are you at all worried? And I said, no. And he goes, if things don't go well, like, when would you start to panic? And it was the first night, and I laughed, and I said, the All-Star game. And he said, really? You would give them that long? He was blown away by that answer, and I said, sure. And he occasionally checks in with me thinking I'm going to change my answer. And as bad as things have gone, I've said, you can't argue that the talent is there, okay? The talent is there. Is this like the most perfectly constructed team of all time? Absolutely not, but no team is. And, I think the moves that they've made, they might be at least in the short term, they might be the perfect moves to, round out this team. Timofey Mozgov. Saying that he's just what the doctor ordered is like the understatement ever. I think he's a role player on some teams, but that dude's been darn near a savior since they got him. And
you heard LeBron.
I was at the game last night, and there's just a number of times where when you see putbacks or when you and it falls off on the defensive end and he comes down with it. There are times that you just see him and that a month ago that play didn't get made. Whether it was a putback or whether it's a rebound, a month ago that would have been an offensive rebound for the other team, and 2 points back in the basket. And
not just that, defensively. I mean, Timofey, even though, okay, I'll give you that he's not the ultimate rim protector. He's not Shaq sitting under there, and I get it. But no, you notice nobody, now part of it is, Kyrie buckling down. Boy, is Kyrie playing some defense too. Last night may have been the best defensive game of Kyrie Irving's basketball career. I'm telling you, the kid is flying. AC said it best. He's now thinking on defense like he used to think on offense. He's now really fast defensively for the first time. I think he figured out earlier this season that was going to be the way he was going to be able to improve the most to help this team. But when guards are no longer getting past the three-point line and driving to the hoop, now the guards for the Cavs, the wing guys can get beat. They can play better strong man defense up top, because if they get beat, and you saw it last night, I must have saw at least a half a dozen where the Jazz came down pretty quickly and had a chance, and a guy tried to drive to the lane, and Mozgov took a slide step right there, and the guy had to turn around and pull back out and reset the offense, because they were able to do that before the trade. They were able to get past the first line of defense and go right to the basket, and that is no longer there. Mozgov has completely changed the defensive funneling, and the way the Cavs play defense has changed now that they've got him there. And not only that, LeBron said it yesterday, but I said this when they made the trade. I said, I think that may be the best center that the Cavs have had here, true center, obviously, since Z. I mean, you haven't had that in so long. LeBron practically said the same thing. He said it's the best one, period, that he's played with since Z, and that the one thing that he that he underestimated was how well Mozgov runs the floor and gets up and down. You saw it on that one. LeBron got a fast break late yesterday. I think it was the third, maybe the start of the fourth quarter. And Mozgov's coming up on the left wing in front of him, and he feeds the little alley-oop there. But, Mozgov's running the floor step for step with LeBron James. That is pretty cool to me, to see your big man out there doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're definitely a totally different team, and have definitely kind of rounded out. I think they're the team. I think they're the team now that they hoped or that they thought they would be at the beginning of the season. And a couple additional parts. I mean, it's easy to kind of make that comparison of J.R. Smith to Dion Waiters, but what J.R. has done just in the short term, he's definitely provided knots that Dion never has been able to do. And so, I mean, maybe it was the team that they drew up on paper at the beginning of the season, but it wasn't on the court, and now it's coming to the court. And I think, going back to, telling my buddy that I wouldn't panic until the All-Star break, I would also say at this point, as it seems to be starting to come together, I mean, it is time to make some hay. I mean, they have this stretch between now and the All-Star break, starting with the Chicago game on Monday. I think 10 out of 14 our break are at home, and the only record.
Yep, bunch of sub 500.
I mean, they cash in on, while I'm not, saying a panic button then, but, I think this is a stretch where, obviously, if they play like they have this week, I mean, you take a look at the standings, they're 4 games back of Chicago right now, and Washington, Toronto, and Chicago are all bunched up, and I don't think it's crazy, bizarro world to think that if they put together a nice run between here and the All-Star game, not just are they going to run into that bunch, but I have a feeling they're the elephant in the room. They're the team that everybody is afraid of, but maybe doesn't want to admit it. And when the Cavs run into that bunch of those 3 teams, I don't think they're going to run into them. They're going to run right on by them, and I won't be surprised if with 30 games to go, this is a 2-horse race, maybe for the top seed. And even if they don't catch Atlanta, I'm not sure it's going to matter. I mean, I think when they play well, they're better than everyone. And I think you can look at the first half of their season for all the struggles that they've had. They have really played well against every team in the Eastern Conference that is ahead of them. I mean, maybe the one exception you could take is Atlanta. I think they're 1-2 against them. But they've really had success against those teams, and I mean, admittedly, no matter where you come out on the Cavs, they haven't played their best, and they've really had success. So if they play their way, into the top 2 seed.
Absolutely. I mean, wherever they end up in there, I've said the second half, I when they made those trades, I said, I'm not sure where the teams are going to fall out as far as are they going to be first, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever. But in the second half, if you separate it from the first half, I said I thought they'd be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the East record in all of basketball record-wise for the second half of the season, because I do think, man, like you said, bringing up the home games, the under 500 games, having everybody together, and hey, you add Shumpert to this mix. He's chomping at the bit to get in there. He is a dog on defense. Now, this team is just now starting to play some defense as a whole. You're going to add another defensive stopper there. I think at that point, I'm very interested to see how the Cavs continue to evolve. I mean, for all the talk of big threes and everything, we've talked since the summer that what drove the Heat was that defense that they played, jumping in the passing lanes, cutting off. I mean, they just turnover, leading to offense. That was how they got the fast breaks, and they got Bosh and Wade and James running down the court, and they got all of that stuff, and then Ray's open for 3. It all came from the defense. They were one of the best, maybe the best defensive team over that stretch because of that. I mean, that drove them, and that's what this team was missing. Now, I'll go back to Kyrie Irving. I've said it all season long. You've watched him grow defensively. Last night, I think, truly, best game he's played in his NBA career defensively, and you're seeing a different Kyrie Irving, and that echoes a long way, man, a huge way, because Kyrie Irving's explosive on one end of the ball, no doubt. With or without LeBron, he's one of the top offensive players in the game. You had the defense where he never did before. Again, that's one more piece the Cavs didn't have before. When they get Shumpert in here, man, I'm very interested to see that they don't let up defensively, because there's another level that they may be getting ready to take it to on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. And, one of the things you talked about, is effort. And I think, you're seeing the maximum effort right now, and especially, from Kyrie on the defensive end. And like you said, I mean, I think he's really asserting himself to another level as a player. And I think, the one thing he's not a guy I like to attribute for having good ideas, because I really don't like him that much as a commentator. But at the beginning of the year, Stephen A. Smith said that, if you wanted to compare the Cavs to the Heat, it's easy to do because of LeBron. And he said, the biggest difference for him is, the Cavs don't have any kind of second player anywhere of the quality of Dwayne Wade when LeBron started at Miami. Well, if Kyrie starts to play defense and Kyrie, can put that together night in and night out, all the people who were predicting doom and gloom and this all falling apart, a week, 10 days ago, are going to have to look up and face the fact that Kyrie is coming into his prime, and Kyrie will be very much, in that same type of role as Dwayne Wade. And, suddenly, all the people who have spread all the rumors and innuendos about, Kevin Love and his happiness and where he fits, suddenly they're going to have to, sit on the fact that that guy's only 25 too. And this is a very young core around LeBron, and when they find it, they don't have to just find it for the next 40 games. They can find it for the next several years and be a team to be reckoned with. So
I agree,
my heart kind of bleeds for Brian Windhurst. I don't know what he's going to write about if these guys keep playing so well.
I hear you. Now I just gotta jump in a little bit on what you just said there, man, and say, while I hear you about the gloom and doom and stuff, you got to understand, and Reggie Miller said it best last week during that game on TNT when he said LeBron can shut all of this down, not by anything that they're doing on the court. It was a lot of what was being said could have been avoided, a lot of all of that, if you had protection for your head coach, for your team. I mean, clearly, and I guarantee you, actually, because LeBron after the fact is good at sitting down and talking about things that and he does say when he feels he did some things wrong. I would be surprised if after this season he doesn't acknowledge the wrong tact, that the wrong attitude, wrong mindset that he had at the start of this season, because he was standoffish, especially with David Blatt. And I get it. Like, I get it that you can't throw yourself all in on some guy you never met and all of that. But everybody, media, fans, other players, were looking to him to set the tone. And that's what was missing. Because if he had been out there from day one saying, relax, jokingly, like Aaron Rodgers, hey, relax. But if he had done that earlier, then a lot of that quiets down, because everybody goes, hey, man, LeBron's not going anywhere. Everybody's cool. And I thought that really had a lot to do with all the questions that were going on. People could have understood what was happening on the court. But, I mean, there. And a lot of people say that's not fair. LeBron came back home. I say I'm sorry. I equate it to the scenario of a guy who separated from his wife and left for a few years, and there was unfaithfulness and there were issues, and then when you come back, you can say clean slate all you want, but the first time you show up late from work and who you're out there screwing around with and what you're doing, and then you go, hey man, I thought we had a fresh slate. Well, that's dealing with the ramifications of the way you left before. And I think part of it was that too. I mean, very quickly people were like, hey man, this guy's about to do it again, man. He's about to leave us hanging and screw us over. We just mortgaged the farm for this guy. And again, Reggie Miller said it best. He goes, LeBron could end all of this. And while LeBron has not since then come out and said, hey, everything's great, his attitude's been better. He's been more lighthearted. He's given some props to David Blatt in his speeches to the media. And that makes the difference, man, because he sets the tone on this whole thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I'd be honest though, the one thing that I think, we're for certain to probably never hear him say, but I always think, if you filled people full of truth serum, what would you get out of them? I think LeBron's just like, most of us, in that when LeBron came back and the Cavs acquired Kevin Love and they had, some kind of quote unquote big three, we all talked and said all the right things. We said it all out loud that this would take a little time, be patient, all the cliches. It's a process, put all those things together. But I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams look up and that this team would be 21-20. And I think that counts for you, me, the guy sitting in the seat next to me at the game, LeBron, David Blatt, David Griffin, Dan Gilbert. I think everybody, whether they would admit it or not, all said and thought the right things, but nobody ever thought that it would be as difficult as it's been. And I'm not sure that it's over. I mean, don't take 1 week and think that, this team has arrived. It looks that way. But, I think, to me, this stretch between now and the All-Star game, that's a good stretch of about 3 weeks there. And I think you can really start to entertain the idea that then they have arrived. But, in the meantime, I think, like anything, when faced with adversity, people don't always handle it maybe the way that they should, or the way when they look back at it how they should have, and I think that's all true of LeBron. And I do think that there is some validity to the idea that he hasn't been 100% until now, and I think he's tried to play through minor injuries without, I don't want to say exerting too much energy, but I think that's kind of the way that it has gone. And I think, in some ways, kind of shutting it down for a couple weeks was probably the best for him, so that you get 100% of LeBron, and so that you can get 100% of LeBron with David Blatt and with David Blatt's offense, and he can assert himself as a leader and be the player that fans thought was coming back and the organization has mortgaged and built around. And and it's another one of those, one leads to the next, to the next, to the next. David Blatt will be a much smarter coach with a healthy LeBron all of a sudden.
I'll tell you, though, too, when he took that time off, and I said this when he came back, yeah, physically you can see the difference, but I honestly thought mentally, as much as anything else, you nailed it on the head. He'll never admit it, but you might have been preaching patience and journey and long term, and we're not going to win now. I have no doubt in my mind that is not what the true belief was heading into this season. I believe LeBron figured, hey, man, look at this talent. It's going to take us a couple of weeks to get used to each other, and then it's going to be off and running like we didn't miss a beat from what I've been doing in Miami for the last 4 years. And I mentioned earlier in the season, too, that it seemed to me that he was taking the tact in the first few weeks, and he changed it. But it seemed to me for a while that what he was doing was, I'm up here, you guys are down here as far as learning how to get up here. I'm going to wait for you to figure it out, and then we'll start doing some business. And I think he realized that, hey, I got to get out of that mindset that I've been in for the last few years and get back in the mindset of, hey, I need to help these guys get up here. I need to reach down and pull them up instead of standing here and going, hey, as soon as you guys get up to this level, man, we'll start working together. And I honestly, you could almost feel that dynamic in the words that he was saying with the whole, bad habits and these guys got to learn. It was a lot of these guys, and I'm watching, and it wasn't as much we, and it's been a lot more we lately. But winning adds to we's with those W's, as you said, and a bad week or two, and you're quickly back to having the same conversations again. Here's the other thing that's changed in the last week. And I know some people will say, that's just fluff talk there. I disagree, man. And I know how relationships work with athletes and people in general. And the Sean Marion story that a lot of people are finding out now, but really that's a decision that was made about a week ago or so that the Cavaliers talked about. Sean Marion retiring at the end of the season. And, say what you want, but winning one for the Gipper. Yeah, okay, a lot of people have something that they try to win one for and it doesn't work out. But there's another aspect that you can add to the way that they've been playing as far as group building. People talk about going bowling in L.A., and they didn't bring back Andrew Bynum, but they brought back a better attitude. And same thing here. That's team building. So is this. You got a guy that everybody likes and respects, and you want to send him out with a winner, and you want to send him out with a championship. That is a team builder. That's a motivator. Whatever it is, you put all those things together, and you've got a team playing together truly for the first time all season.
Yeah, I think so. And you look at, they played the Mavericks not too long ago, and everyone from the Dallas contingent had, only positive things to say about Sean Marion, and the same when they went to Phoenix on the last road trip, and a nice ovation. I've heard people jokingly say that Mike Miller is like the Jason Giambi of this team. I think in a lot of ways, Sean Marion is the Jason Giambi of this team, in that he's respected, and he's the old wise guy that everybody goes to. And I think the same thing. And Marion is a guy who has probably seen his role diminish, at least in the short term, since guys have come back. And that's no knock on Sean Marion, but probably best for this team and its success. And if you're getting 18 minutes a night of Sean Marion, it's probably better than getting 30 for the team, and what he can provide these guys around him. And like you said, I think he's the kind of guy that everywhere he's been, people have gravitated to learn from, and a guy that people want to play for, not just playing for your coach, but playing for the guy next to you. And I think, there's a lot of people that feel as if, like you said, they want to send Marion out a winner.
And you know what? Look at the difference. We talked about how, and with those injuries, when you had to plug Marion into the starting lineup where he wasn't anticipating being and all of that, look at the depth on the bench now. While they could still add to it, when you get Shumpert back, assuming he comes back Friday, but whatever, you get Shumpert back at the end of this week, he slides into the starting lineup. You move J.R. Smith back coming off the bench, and he's been lethal since he came to Cleveland. He's like nearly 50% on his three-pointers. He's just going to town since he came to Cleveland. But you slide him down now, coming in that second second unit. You got J.R. Smith. You've got Tristan Thompson coming out there. You've got Sean Marion in a much more fitting role for where he's at. You've got whatever you get out of Mike Miller, James Jones. I mean, obviously there's still issues there too deep down the bench, but all of a sudden you're now a solid 8 or 9 deep instead of 5 deep and hoping that you can get 1 or 2 other guys to contribute night to night.
Yeah, I agree. And, I mean, you'll be a quality 9 deep when Scherzer's back, and you know your 3 or 4 guys on the end of the bench to give you a couple minutes if you need them. But you'll be a quality 9 deep, and you know that sets up, I think, real well for the rest of the regular season, and probably a situation where when they have to, being very good and 9 deep, then probably allows you the freedom for when the day comes and you have to, or you want to only go 8 deep, you can, because you haven't overworked those guys too much.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. Mike, hey, why don't you sit tight? I got to get a break in, get the news in. Let's come back and spend a few minutes before you go talking a little baseball here as the Central Division continues to evolve. A big block there out of the way from the Tiger starting rotation. Indians signing up some arbitration players, man. Let's come back and talk a little baseball. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right, sit tight. Mike Brandenberry did the TryWinLastNight.com. They didn't play, but we're going to talk about them when we come back next. Let's get you a break, some news. Come right back with us, Mike and I, talking Tribe, heading into Tribe Fest here. We'll talk some Indians. Max Scherzer gone from the Central Division, heads to the Nats. Where's Strasburg perhaps going to end up? We'll talk about all of that and more. Mike Brandenberry picks back up with us next after the news here on the Sports Fix.
Must be new to this when you hear me. Profit, not merely putting words together for recreation. Each rhyme's a dissertation. I get paid to rock the nation. I go to work.
I make all of your dreams come true.
What about my dream?
Edith, I told you I can't build your candy house. It will fall down. The sun will melt the candy. It won't work.
It will if it never rains.
Oh, maybe not all of them. Get your fix on the Sports Fix.
This is head coach Gary Waters at Cleveland State, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your automotive car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. They're open late Monday through Thursday until 9 p.m. and open early Saturday so you can check it off your to-do list and get on with your day. They also have a newly remodeled service lounge and additional service bay just for Quick Lane oil changes. Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck is located at 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck. That's QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
News break.
I'm Christine Lisi. Here's what's happening. Patriots coach Bill Belichick publicly spoke for the first time about the deflated footballs allegedly used in Sunday's AFC Championship game, said he had no knowledge of the issue until he came to work Monday and was shocked to learn about it in news reports. Belichick also said he's never addressed football air pressure with any player or staff member.
To me, the footballs are approved by the league and game officials pregame, and we play with what's out there. And that's the only way that I have ever thought about that.
Bill Belichick, quarterback Tom Brady will address the matter tomorrow. NBA Lakers star Kobe Bryant, sore right shoulder, will have an MRI today. Injured Bulls center Joakim Noah doubtful tonight against the Spurs. ESPN's Dave McMenamin reporting LeBron James recently met with free agent guard and former Heat teammate Ray Allen, trying to appeal to him about joining the Cavaliers this season. Allen hasn't played since his 18th NBA season ended last June with Miami's loss in the NBA Finals to San Antonio.
To be the game time hero on game day, serve wings and boneless wings from the Walmart Deli. Wings are hot, fresh, and ready to go. Be the big game champ with great tasting wings and boneless wings. Hashtag game time hero. Available at Walmart for a low price every day.
Now, back to the Sports Fix.
Indian fever. It's catching fire with everyone. Indian fever. You can be part of the fun.
The Sports Fix live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rocc back with you. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com with me here. You guys can keep the conversation going on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. I heard during the news they actually they need to update that. Actually, because Bill Belichick threw Tom Brady under the bus, they changed Tom Brady's press conference. It was scheduled for tomorrow. Now it's been moved up to 4 o'clock this afternoon. So, anyways, ESPN, get with the program. But like Brandenberry, we were talking some Cavaliers over to some baseball. Indians baseball, baby. Tribe Indians did some arbitration work last week, and of course, a lot of things to go around as far as Max Scherzer leaving the division, heading to the Nationals now, and more. Let's do it. Mike Brandenberry, DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. How you doing, my man?
I'm good.
We're back here talking. Let's talk some Tribe, man. Let's pick up right there. Let's start with the arbitration stuff. As the Indian, we know they don't like to monkey around, and very quickly they went to work making sure that they locked everybody up here heading into spring training. Which, by the way, come Monday, weekly daily reminder, 3 Monday sports fixes away from some spring training. Can you believe we're that close?
It seems so close and so far away at the same time. You know,
it's a
I look out my window. It doesn't look anything like baseball, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I feel like this has been the longest winter ever, and I don't mean this as a knock on the Indians in any way, but it's been a pretty quiet winter, one without a lot of moves or big moves, and so I think in some ways that makes the winter drag on because we have the same topics to talk about from week to week, and you know the hot stove fire is not burning bright this winter, so it seems to make it drag on a little farther.
Yeah, you're right, man, definitely. But you know what? Doing some media avails this week. Terry Francona sat down this week because, of course, Tribe Fest coming up. Got his thoughts on some of this. A lot of questions. And you and I have already talked about the defense and exactly how much better it will or won't be. Obviously, the big improvement is at the shortstop position there. But I noticed Terry Pluto, I think it was yesterday's Plain Dealer, but he was going through some of the differences, and I get it. Like, you can't do the run differential thing because, as we know, the Indians' offense looks so much better than it actually was as a whole, and when you break down the fact that there were a bunch of 10 and 12 run mixed in with a bunch of 1 and 2 run games, you know, but that one's tricky. But defensively, like I noticed the one stat that he brought up, not just the difference in unearned runs, which we've talked about between the teams, but when you look at the runs that Kansas City didn't give up because of their defense and the ones that the Indians did, it became a difference of 108 between the two teams, which more than explains the 4, 5, 6 game difference there that you see in the standings. And again, it comes back to how you expect the Indians to improve that. I still think that a full season of Carlos Santana over at first base will solidify. I'm not saying make that the greatest position, but I think you'll get better consistent play there. He was still, not that this says a ton, but more than twice as good and efficient at first base than Nick Swisher was last season when he tried to play it.
running faster than someone really
I got
slow
you. I got
doesn't
you.
make
I
you
know.
fast, Jerry.
It's like
Okay?
being the best quarterback of the Browns since 1999. It just means that you're better than all the other ones. I get it.
Correct. And you know, I this is one of those, I'm going to have to see it to believe it. I'm not going to buy into their defense being drastically improved because Carlos Santana is going to play, you know, a full season at first base and Jose Ramirez is the shortstop now. I'll be the first to say I can't wait to be wrong. I hope.
Let me ask you, Mike.
I hope I'm wrong and they're right, because
Let me ask you, though.
To me,
why
if
do you
that's
say
the
that?
case, this team's a lot better.
Why do you say that? Only because, here's why I'm asking you that. Why do you say that? Because if they had made, if the way you're talking is more like I would look at it if they were off-season changes, like when they told us that they were going to move Carlos Santana over to third base, but we didn't have it to see it. We saw it on the field, appreciably better down the stretch defense for a relatively decent period of time, to where I think that's safe. I'm not saying, projected 100%, but I think it's not going out on a limb to project that they're better, because they were physically better once they kind of made those changes there down the stretch. So we're not totally speculating in the dark, are we?
We're not totally. I think we're also glossing over some things that maybe we choose not to notice. You know, we did have Jose Ramirez in August and September when the defense was a lot better. Jan Gomes played a lot better in the second half than he did in the first half. Mm-hmm. You can't convince me without a shadow of a doubt that scary Jan Gomes from the first 6 weeks isn't going to resurface. I've seen him once. I can see him again.
No, that's a great point. Great point.
Michael Bourne is not a shadow of the center fielder that he used to be. David Murphy is below average. Ryan Rayburn is below average. And a lot of those guys, and I don't think it was an accident, were out, injured. Nick Swisher, add him to the list too. Those guys were all out and injured when their defense suddenly got better. Well, they're counting on them all over again, Jerry.
True. I hear you.
A year older does not mean a year better necessarily.
See, that's the difference. You're right.
Not more range. So I am guarded at best that their defense is going to be better. Like I said, I can't wait to be wrong.
No, but that makes sense. Now I see what you're talking about, because I'm looking at it as, hey, man, trot those guys out that you went the last 2 months with, but that's not, because as great points as far as them being injured, and that by attrition made the defense improve by getting some of those guys out of there, and those guys will be. It's not going to necessarily be the way the team was during August and September last year. It's going to be a lot like it was at the beginning of last year.
Absolutely, and if anybody's like listening in their car, I'm afraid what I'm about to say will make somebody like run off the road. But a guy that I don't think will make this opening day 25-man roster, but you know, if and when Terry Francona calls me up and asks for my advice, a guy that I would strongly advocate for, that I don't think he probably won't even be in the last group of cuts, but I would advocate strongly for Tyler Holt, because they have a huge barrel of below-average outfielders. And going back to looking at August and September, I don't think it's an accident that when all those guys were out, Tyler Holt was out there playing right field. And you look at what you lost offensively versus what they gained defensively at the same time. I think Tyler Holt is a guy who, if he's a bench guy, if he's the last guy in your offense and he's a defensive replacement at the end of games, going out there and playing right field or playing center field, if Michael Bourne swallows his pride and can give way as a defensive replacement, or if you're playing Tyler Holt in right field, replacing David Murphy and Brandon Moss out there, I think that's a step that makes things better. As up and down as their offense has been, I can make a great case, and I don't think there'll be too many people that would argue with me that if it comes down to the last roster spot, Tyler Holt bring more to this team than Ryan Rayburn will, and more that this team needs.
very curious to see. I like where you're coming from with that, too. At Lightning Holt, Charles in the chat room with the hashtag there, man. You know, got to grab a hold of a Lightning Holt and ride it till it goes, man. I hear you there. And you know what? Okay, let me ask you something else, too, because this is what you say. Now, I do give Terry Francona a bit more credibility than the average manager because he's pretty, pretty transparent with some of the things that he says. Sometimes you go, okay, well, I don't know that you necessarily believe that either. But we talked, and I think I mentioned this last year when we were talking about the bad defense at some point during the season, when I said, man, what do you do? Do you start the season? Because these are pros. And I'm like, okay, I mean, you've been taking grounders since you were, 10 years old or whatever. But what do you do with pros? Do you take longer lines before the game to take ground balls in infield practice or what? But the Indians and Terry Francona did at least pay a lot of lip service to changing the way they plan on going about some of the spring training drills and defensively hitting it harder, a lot more live fielding drills and stuff like that. I mean, do you see that? I can't see that being a bad thing. I mean, I don't know if it's a game changer either, but you got to think that would perhaps go a long way to starting the season perhaps less awkwardly on defense than you did last year.
I think one thing that will go a long way for their defense is that they obviously have a pretty good idea of what their roster is going to be, too. I think, making some subtle changes in how they approach defense, that's not going to hurt, that's for sure. I think looking at last year, they had some things in motion that definitely didn't work to their benefit. The Carlos Santana at third experiment,
I like that idea too.
didn't go well, to say the least. I think in some ways that probably has some kind of effect on Yan Gomes. If you are handed a position and you see a guy that is your 4-hole hitter struggling, and you're thinking, man, he might be coming back to my spot. Maybe I got to make a play. Maybe I'm not the guy here long term. And maybe he pressed a little bit. It's hard to tell, but I certainly think, a little bit more consistency in what their lineup will be, I don't think is going to hurt things. And as far as what you said in terms of, a little bit of a different approach in Thanksgiving, in spring training, will definitely go a long ways in their preparation. And I think the other thing, too, is I don't know how anyone can shy away from the idea that they were awful defensively, and I think it has to be a top priority of some of these guys as they get to Goodyear. I'm not sure that was the case a year ago. I mean, kind of talking about the Cavs and effort, defense, I think, in some ways is still effort when it comes to baseball. And you're not going to get faster. You're not going to get, rangier. But obviously concentration and making plays, I go back to, missing cutoff men that they did often. Nick Swisher at first base, dropping balls that weren't in the dirt. I mean, this isn't a knock on Nick Swisher. You can put any Major League Baseball player at first base that you'd like, and when they drop a ball that doesn't go in the dirt, I'm going to say that that's totally unacceptable, and it is. To me, no one can deny the fact that they were awful defensively, and I have to believe that is an organizational goal as they go to Goodyear to be better. And I think, if they're average, this is a good baseball team.
I look at
personally, I just have doubts as to whether they ever get to average.
I totally hear you. Looking at Santana, 5 errors, 94 games at first. That projects out to 8 to 10 errors. I mean, again, that's respectable if nothing else. But you hit it on the head, perhaps with just the change from the beginning. Last year, you had Swisher at first, Kipnis at second, Asdrubal at short, Carlos at third to start the season on opening day. This year, you had, or it'll be projecting out totally different. At least the way the season ended last year. You had Kipnis at second, Ramirez at short, Santana over to first, and Chiz settled in there over at third base. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm with you, man. Again, I think obviously you want to work on starting it stronger, and I think that made it, obviously, with Santana, a bit of it. But you don't want to just sit here and like we say, you don't want to excuse your way into the season and then go, oh, here we go again. Same thing with making changes in the lineup or whatnot. But it is better than saying, hey, nothing to see here, move along, we're going to do business as usual. I do like the fact that they are open. Well, you can't help but be open. I mean, I guess when everybody knows how bad you were defensively, but I do like a team that acknowledges and is at least going to attempt to work on that there. The other thing, too, I know I don't have you for very long here, man. I've already had you for a while, is the continued evolving. I mean, hey, man, there's a ton of free agents still sorting things out here. There's still a lot of rosters that will be bolstered in spring training for sure, and I think we're starting to see that become more of a trend here. Guys signing later and later with teams as teams just wait out the markets. But Max Scherzer, big deal, going to Washington, $200+ million. What's it? $30 million a year. Oh, the deferred money too. I got off the topic. I got into just a heck of a conversation with somebody the other day. We're looking at the deferred money, and then somehow Bobby Bonilla comes up, and you realize that cat hasn't played baseball in 20 years, and somebody still owes him $1 million a year for the next 20 years, man. Like, that cat did some good business moves to defer his check, much like Scherzer's going to do. But, man, how crazy is that, man? The dude's been out of the game for 2 decades, and he's still making $1 million a year until his kids will be making $1 million a year off of that deal, man. It's
we joke about Hall of Famers and not having or guys on the Hall of Fame ballot not having a better or worse year than last year. It would be nice to be Bobby Bo and go to the mailbox and get your check for the 13th straight year and be like,
think about it.
Another good season. Another good season.
2035, he gets a check for $1+ million a year until 2035. That is.
We need to get his agent to start doing all of our pension plans.
That's a pension plan and a half right there, man. Because I mean, when's the last year Bonilla played? I mean, he played into the 90s, but it couldn't have been much later. What, 99 maybe? Didn't he finish with the Mets?
Yeah, probably about right. I think I blocked him out after the Marlins in '97, but he only had a couple more years after that.
Remember when he started? When it was him and Bonds and Andy Van Slyke all together in Pittsburgh, and they were the young guns coming up together in early 90s, I believe that was. Before
Jim Leland was just taking up smoking when Bobby Bonilla started playing baseball.
But, just the segue to that into a similar type deal here is there's going to be a ton of deferred money by the time Washington's done. But, man, Scherzer cashes in. So now he strengthens the Nationals, weakens a division rival here as Detroit. They anticipated, I believe, losing him anyway, but now it's official that he's not there, man. So does that change a lot of your thoughts as far as Detroit here? And what do you think about the deal and now perhaps Washington looking to move Strasburg?
I think it's interesting, and I think the Strasburg part is the most interesting part because I think that you're willing to commit $210 million to get a little better. And I mean, Max Scherzer is definitely better than Steven Strasburg, but is it worth a $210 million commitment to get that much better? And I wonder how much more is to the story in their willingness to part ways, and he seems to be very open and willing to part ways too. Just to me, I always think there's got to be more to that story when teams are walking around offering young pitching under team control for the foreseeable future. Going, here he is. He's here to be had. We spent $210 million. So that he could be available to you. Come get him.
Before he got hurt, I mean, it was, and even after, but especially before, this is the next Roger Clemens. This is the bona fide next big thing here. Remember, Strasburg Mania was going wild, man. And like you say, now so quickly willing to go, hey, because that's the thing. You still got team control and all of that. And they're like, hey, anybody want this guy, man? I thought that was, I was surprised the first time I saw the first article after they were signing Scherzer, and it said, yeah, now they're going to move on. I'm like, really? And like you say, it's a head scratcher because, of course, Scherzer can go, but, there's an age difference, and down the road, by the end of this thing, theoretically, Strasburg's still in his prime, so that is makes you wonder what Washington knows that nobody else knows.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the Central Division for the Indians, I think the door's wide open with the loss of Scherzer, and maybe next week we can talk. I don't know if this division's really good or if it's really bad, because I think all the teams are even. I think that's fair, but I think they all have major flaws, and I think the team that can hide their flaws the best and maybe stay healthy is your division winner. And I'm not sure if that necessarily means that you're really good or if you've just survived your opponent, but it's deep if nothing else. And I think the Tigers are definitely the oldest team. They're very old. They could get into movies that maybe the other teams couldn't, but otherwise, I think, they're one injury away, too, from their season going off the tracks because they've got a lot of eggs in a lot of old baskets, and, they're counting on guys who've also struggled. I'm not sure, Justin Verlander hasn't been Justin Verlander for a couple years now, and they're essentially going to ask him to go out there and be 2009 Justin Verlander. I don't know what has happened in 2013 and 14 to make them believe that they can turn back the clock. But, Miguel Cabrera's not getting younger. Victor Martinez isn't getting younger. I guess they're the team to beat because till you knock them off, they are. But they're really old. I'll say that. And I think, their depth, they've traded from their minor league system for a long time. And I think an injury or two will exploit just how bare that cupboard really is for them. And I think the Royals have got worse, and I think they walk a very fine line like the Indians do between 90 wins and things not going as planned, and you find yourself at 80 wins really quick. And I think they're dancing that fine line too. And I think the White Sox are a lot better, but they're also throwing money at guys that are aging too. And so they're better, but are they good enough? I think none of those are resounding endorsements in my eyes. So that's where I go to. I'm not sure if this division is really good or if it's just even. So we'll see.
I'll tell you, looking and wrapping this with looking at what Terry Francona said, one interesting quote that I took of it, and it's the way and it makes sense from the way the Indians attacked this offseason. I know we all had different ideas on how we wanted it to go, but as Terry Francona said, our job this year is to figure out how to be 6 or 7 games better than this club was last year. At least Scherzer leaving the Tigers rotation. It chips perhaps 1 or 2 of those off of that number there because you won't be facing him as much there. So, but I do you can see. I mean, obviously that is what they didn't come out and say it, but that was their plan this offseason. Was the Indians we feel we were close and we need to figure out how to, instead of adding a bunch of new pieces, we'll tweak, but we need to figure out how to make the group that we had better. And that's the $1 million question. Every team tries that. Can the Indians pull it off? That'll be what we're watching this season. But that's the way he basically summed it up, is we have to figure out how to be 6 or 7 games better than we were last year.
Yeah, it's an easy solution.
Yeah.
Execution, probably not so much, but I mean, it's definitely there. To me, the defense and pitching will still be the keys, and I think they'll score runs and streaks, and if they catch the ball behind them and their starting pitching holds true, I think they'll be there to the end. I think you can make a case when you look at all of the teams that. I think the Indians are probably the most sound team. Maybe their bottom end, their worst day or their rainy day, I don't think is as bad as, if things go really bad for the Royals or the Tigers or the White Sox. I think their bad day can go a lot worse. I think the Indians have a very nice young core to build around, not just for this year, but into the future. So I definitely think that they're a contender.
Left themselves flexibility, as they love to say, man. I'll tell you, just like I said about Mondays, Mike, when we hang up this call, you and I have 3 conversations remaining until they're playing baseball, brother. Until they're actually playing, well, spring training, but they're actually playing some baseball. Just 3 conversations left.
Sounds good, my man.
Anytime. I'm with it, man. Hey,
Yep.
What's up on didthetryWinLastNight.com this week? Anything good? I mean, of course it's good.
We're getting ready for Tribe Fest, and we've been a part of some of their announcements this week and got a little insight into that, so you'll start to see some of that popping up on our site as well.
Yeah, some new food around the Progressive Field area. We'll talk perhaps about that next week. Mike, enjoy some Cavs hoops this weekend, and we'll get back next week and talk a little Cavs. We'll talk a little Indians here. We'll keep counting it down, man, until the trucks are packed and pitchers and catchers are heading to spring training.
Sounds good, my man. I'll talk to you next week.
You got it. Mike Brandenburry, don't forget, bookmark it. DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. Fantastic source for all your Cleveland Indians news and opinions and insight and all of that stuff. And they do some great stuff with the minor league system and all of that. I'm telling you, if you're a baseball fan, you are missing out if you are not checking out DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. And, of course, a lot of the stuff you guys see on our Facebook, if you follow us on social media, comes from there. We directly feed all of their stuff right through our sites and our base of different places. So, DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com, Mike Brandenburry. Tweet with them at DidTribeWin. When we come back, let's wrap this bad boy up, man. And good show here today. Extended conversation with Mike Brandenburry. See, multitasking there. It's like the Indians. I'm trying to get flexibility out of the roster, versatility out of the roster here. We're trying to get Mike Brandenburry to go both ways. So a little Cavs, little Indians. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's take the final break of the day. When we come back, I caught some phone calls early. I know at least one message there in the queue. I'll fire that one up when we come back. Final segment of the day coming your way. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Wrapping things up here on The Fix.
So do it for me, baby. Let me see you shake it. Just do it for me, baby. Come on and shake it till you break.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Throwing you the best sports commentary in town. The Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Looking to upgrade your league trophy? Check out fantasyjocks.com for championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Yeah,
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, FantasyJocks.com. SportsFix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Hey, everybody. Listen up.
Listen up, guys.
Hey, guys. Listen up.
No one should ever hit a woman.
Not their wife, not their girlfriend, not their date. No woman should have to fear violence.
Especially not from someone they know and trust.
But that's the reality for too many women.
We have to change it.
It's up to each of us, because even one is too many.
Violence against women hurts all of us. Growing up, I was ashamed and afraid of my father when he abused my mom.
The worst abuse of power is when a man raises his hand to hurt a woman. We all have to take responsibility. So if you see someone threatening a woman, step up, speak out, and get help.
Dating violence hurts all of us. So step up and help end it. Because one is too many.
One is too many.
One is too many.
One is too many.
End the violence. Because it's wrong.
Because one is too many.
Hey, Cleveland, this is Tristan Thompson of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and you're listening to Sports Fix.
This is how we do it. This is how we do it. La 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 la. La la la. This is how we do it. La la la.
This is how we do it. Each and every weekday at noon, live across the Sports Fix Radio Network, having some fun and talking sports. I swear you can do it. We prove it every day here on the Sports Fix, man. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. And some ridiculous. I'm telling you, the NFL is pulling the okie doke on all of us here with this stupid air inflation story this week. They know what they're doing, man. I am not buying this hype. Just had a alert pop across my phone here, and now many of you may be seeing it on your websites or whatever you go to for your news. The NFL has assigned a modified set of procedures to prepare the game balls for the Super Bowl here to make sure that it is above board here as they usually do. No more of the allegations of underinflated ball. I mean, get this story. This is stupid. Nobody would be talking about the NFL for the next 5 days because nobody gives a damn about the ridiculous Pro Bowl. It's worse than ever. Now, I know, you know what? I guess not everybody agrees with that. Most people do. But hey, shut up there, Montel Jordan. I'm talking here. But my fault for not turning him down, but nobody cares about the Pro Bowl, in my opinion. It's worse than ever. But I was telling that to a buddy the other day. He goes, I like it better. I like the fantasy football aspect of being able to see, theoretically, Peyton Manning throw a pass to, whatever, so on and so forth, Megatron or whatnot. And I get that, but I'm big on. I liked it the way it was. Then again, it hasn't been anything for so long anyway. But nobody's talking about that. Nobody cares about that. So somebody had to talk about something, and what do you know? Magically, they not only have something to talk about, but something that is driving interest even higher for next weekend's game, man. Don't tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about here, man. I even saw, you know what? We talked about it earlier. Here's your guaranteed irony of this coming off season. I tweeted about this earlier, and I said it earlier this week on the show, that there will be a group of men sitting in a circle at a table, some of whom have athletically enhanced their performance. The same group of people who fought drug testing, who fought HGH testing, who still fight HGH testing to this day, going to sit around and talk about how we can be more heavy-handed about these deflated footballs. There's your ironic moment. A bunch of guys juiced to the, not all of them. I'm not trying to insinuate that every player in the NFL is gassed up. But if you think that it's just a small number that is, you're wrong, brother. Because if it was just a small number, the players union would have thrown those guys under the bus a long time ago so that they could get the public speculation about steroid use out of their game. It's a large number, but it's how it fits the word irony. Many people misuse that word, but to me, totally ironic and perhaps poetic that a group of these type of, because that's how they get together. They'll get a rep from every team, and they'll get a competition committee together, and there'll be a bunch of guys hammering this out. But it's going to be a bunch of guys in the mix that may or may not have sauced their way to the top, but they're going to argue about how to stop the almighty Belichick and the Patriots. Meanwhile, now the NFL gets to hold press conferences about special circumstances to blow up the footballs for the Super Bowl, and I guarantee you they'll be not only whole, they got to fill 14 hours of pregame coverage, so there'll be whole sit-downs about this. There'll be discussions with Roger Goodell, with the competition committee. Everybody will get to sit down with Hannah Storm will sit down with the commissioner and Rachel. They'll all get in there, and Rachel Nichols. They'll all be doing their thing and interviews, and there'll be a story about the special inflators for the footballs and keeping them under lock and key. Trust me, brother. It's a cottage industry here for the NFL, and they found a way to once again trump themselves and drive their interest even higher. You can think I'm wrong, think I'm one of these nuts seeing little men in the bushes. Hey, Charles in the chat room, there's a great point. They may show on the NFL Network. They may even feed the blowing up of the balls live on the air. They may find a way to make that an actual thing that you can watch stream. I mean, hell, UFC now streams the weigh-ins and the Nevada Athletic Commission hearings. Literally, people watch hearings where guys just sit there and talk about why they failed the drug test or a little administrative stuff. Not even, some of them are interesting, some of them aren't. Anyways, it's the same thing. They found a way to add access, adding access, giving people more access to your game. There you go. There'll be a whole thing, man. You'll have Chris Mortensen standing. It'll be like the day they did Hoffa's tomb, if you guys remember that, when Geraldo was getting ready to go live worldwide. They were going to crack Jimmy Hoffa's hidden tomb, and what was there, like a book of matches and a couple of pieces of paper, a couple of rats on the floor. There was nothing, and it was a big bust, a big nothing happening, man. But that's it, man. Maybe we could get Geraldo to do it. He could be outside and go, ladies and gentlemen, I'm outside right now. There's a top secret area where we're preparing the footballs for the Super Bowl. It'll be great. Anyways, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying it shouldn't be dealt with, somebody shouldn't be accountable for. This is a joke, what we're dealing with here. And the same people that last week they tried to accuse the Patriots of cheating last week because they won their game. Now here this week again, and if they win in the Super Bowl, there'll be some story coming out of that one too. Because regardless, and listen, I'm not saying that there's not smoke to this fire, but there's also people taking that smoke, moving it to a different area, and blowing it up a whole bunch of people's rear ends at the same time here, man. And that, you can't convince me of that otherwise. But anyway, so yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't even mean to go back to that, but as I'm coming back from break, my phone blinks and I look at it, and it's literally, the headline is Super Bowl to maintain impartial equipment manager to handle the game balls. And I'm like, get out of here, man. Really? Anyway, so that's that's where we're at with the latest stupidity on that. Hey, circling around, a couple of things to set up before we get out of here for tomorrow. Blue Jackets fell last night 4-0 to Winnipeg there, and heading into the All-Star break down in Columbus coming up this weekend. Hey, man, Ohio continuing to, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's Columbus, attract these big events. I expect Columbus, more than Cleveland, I expect Columbus to get a UFC, another one coming really soon. They've already had one down there before. And matter of fact, speaking of that, totally off the topic, a little birdie told me that there are some legitimate conversations. UFC may be bringing either a pay-per-view or a fight night, one of those Fox Sports fight nights, here to Cleveland in the relatively near future. I personally was told that they're kind of waiting out to see, they'd like to time first time. What they try to do is when they go first time in a market, they try to line it up with a local draw to help add on to it, a lot of times. And obviously when Stipe or Jessica I are in position for a big fight, a title opportunity, anything like that, I would see that as being the perhaps the ideal timing for that there. But I mean, either way, it'll be a big fight circled around one or both of those two here. But yeah, I'm hearing that Cleveland in the mix here in 2015 to get one of those bigger UFC events here. Of course, got the Republican convention locked in stone coming here this year. It said Columbus has got the NHL All-Star game. There's a lot of things, man. Northeast Ohio and Southern Ohio, man. It's starting to continue to draw some of those big events. That's always good for the economy of the state and just for the general knowledge of things. And speaking of hockey, which I started with there, talking about the Blue Jackets, Monsters back home tonight. Second half officially begins today for the Lake Erie Monsters. They're back home for 2 before they go back on the road. San Antonio, 23-13-3 coming in. First meeting of 4 on the season. Last year, San Antonio took 3 out of 4 from the Monsters. Monsters lost 4-3 in overtime Sunday against Iowa. Last victory for the Monsters a week ago, 5-1 over Chicago. San Antonio coming in winners of 4 of their last 5. These two teams not only meet tonight, but they will do it again on Saturday for Cleveland Rocks night, which is a big one. Tonight, Doug Plagans will be calling the action live from the Q on AM 1420, The Answer. So catch Doug over there on my old stomping grounds of WHK Monsters action tonight. We'll talk about that tomorrow as well. We will talk about the Cavaliers some more with Eddie Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland as we preview the Cavaliers and Milwaukee coming up, or excuse me, no, Cavaliers and Charlotte coming up next. I had Utah's schedule for some reason next to Cleveland's there. Charlotte, OKC, the next 2 coming up here. Detroit, Portland. Actually, I'm going to be at a couple of these home games coming up. I'm definitely going to Portland next week and perhaps get into another 1 or 2 here over the next few days as well. Got to take advantage of these home games. They've been on the road a lot here. Shumpert maybe back this weekend too. We'll talk about that with Eddie. We'll preview the game coming up, Charlotte tomorrow. Eddie Jansen, More Than a Fan Cleveland here. Jeff Gorman not going to be here tomorrow, taking the week off in between. I mean, what are we going to do? Preview the Pro Bowl there? Sorry, if you like the Pro Bowl, I know you're feeling really salty at me now because I've made fun of it like twice, but it's the most ridiculous exhibition of worthless. I love football. I love football, man. You could show me 24 dudes that don't know each other and don't play together or anything. If they're going to get out there and hit each other and tackle each other, I'll watch it. Give me a microphone, I'll call it play-by-play too. But that, at least there's effort. Yeah, we're going back to effort again. Funny that word comes up around the Cavs, but there's no effort. The Pro Bowl just doesn't do it for me, man. And especially this drafting thing and all, it just doesn't do it for me. But if it does it for you, more power to you. Enjoy that bad. That's all that matters. Enjoy it. So, anyways, talking about all of that, Jonathan Knight may be here. I'm not even sure. Jonathan Knight may be here tomorrow, may not be. I guess you'll have to come back and find out. Either way, we're going to end the week strong like we always do here Fridays on the Sports Fix. You guys, Tribe Fest, of course. I see Bruce coming up this weekend. Talk a little bit about that tomorrow, too. Let's do it. Come on back. Let's wrap it up. Same bat time, same bat channel, live, noon. Right here tomorrow across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Hey, guys, have some fun tonight. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. As we say each and every day, we will see you tomorrow live, noon, right here on the Sports Fix.
Make it at the city, bet we all right. Coming out the east side, where they do not play much. Clouds always looming, we don't see the sun rays much. Still about the paper, gotta make sure the lights on. Just a mistake on the lake to you, but this is my home. Tatted it on my arm, that I represent that. Homie, I'm from Cleveland, I will tell the president that. Hardest, yeah, we been there. Made some of the greats here. Midwest best, this is MGK's, yeah. Shouts out to St. Clair, uptown, yes, y'all. Heading to the flats, get it popping up with Steph Flaws. Old State monster, this the home of King James. We are not the empire, but this is where the kings play. Cleveland, let's go.
We rep our city. Blue lights separate the ground from the gritty. We're sick fitted.